All right. Hey, everyone. This is Bria Jones with Bulb, and we are continuing our spring webinar series, and I'm so excited to have Jillian Richards with us today. And Jillian is a middle school art teacher at Coppell Middle School East in Texas, and she's been using Bulb for about 3 years now. And one of the things that so impresses me with her is that she has done such a great job of integrating Bulb into the daily rhythms of her classroom, into her curriculum, and really using Bulb as a great portfolio platform for her students. So I'm so excited to have her share with you all of those ins and outs and tips that you guys are just going to eat up. So Jillian, I'm going to give it to you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you implement Bulb into your classroom?
Okay. When I first started with Bulb, I think it's important to start there. It wasn't something that my district was pushing down. It wasn't something that I had really seen anybody else do. I had heard rumors that our district wanted to implement digital portfolios. And so I'm just kind of the person that dives straight into something head first. I don't really read the rule book, but I started experimenting with it, and then I just started with a 6th grade class. I have 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and I teach a high school Art 1 class as well. So I figured my first year teaching it would be with a group that I was going to level up with every year. And so one of the things that I wanted to do was kind of start to introduce it at the beginning of the year as something that is, you know, like a live, living portfolio, trying to explain to young minds how this thing works and how it can grow with them can be kind of difficult. But I kind of just started with a presentation at the beginning of the year, and it's evolved quite a bit over the last 3 years about how I go about this. But at the beginning of the year, we pretty much spent an entire week on starting to set up our Bulb accounts with my 6th graders. And then, of course, my 7th and 8th graders, they already have theirs. So we just go in and make little tweaks and modifications at the beginning of the year. That's how I kind of just get everybody going. But really, it's integrated into our curriculum. So my district has now adopted the fact that we are going to have digital portfolios, and we really have worked it into our art curriculum so that it's something that we do, and it's a part of our daily or weekly and monthly process.
Yeah, so talk to us a little bit more about that, getting kind of into the details in terms of like what that flow looks like, you know, from a monthly type of perspective or unit perspective.
Okay, so at the beginning of the year when I have them start out, I also send home a parent letter. I think that's important so that parents are on board and understand what's going on. I love
that part. I just want to point that out because, you know, it is really great that parents understand the tools that their kids are using in the classroom. And so I think you are very wise in making sure that that's a part of how it gets going, that you're incorporating the parents from the very beginning. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. And I think it's important because we so strongly teach digital citizenship, you know, that, sorry, that's our bell. Time's up, gotta go. No. So I think it's important that the parents understand how the students will be utilizing their digital portfolios and that they're on board. So it's, for me, them signing off on that is them telling me that they understand that their student is going to be participating in a digital portfolio. Yeah. I also go over with them that I have 4 checkpoints throughout the year. So I think I have one, I think I wrote them down somewhere. I have 2 in the fall and 2 in the spring. So I had one last February, and I'll have one in May. As far as the students keeping up with what's due in the portfolio, I have a live database that I keep in Google Sheets, and we use our learning management system is called Schoology. And so when I put the link to the live database into Schoology, every time I update something that we need to put into our portfolios, they can see it live in Schoology as well. So that helps them kind of pace on their own, keeping up everything that's supposed to be in there. We like to show growth, but we also like to demonstrate our process and procedures I have everything from simple sketches and notes to stop motion progress videos to their final artwork. So that database really helps. And that's something that I started this year, and it's been a lifesaver. It's been completely, life-changing. Instead of just trying to tell them, okay, we need to put these things in there. So I've really enjoyed that aspect of it as far as keeping up with things. But the other thing that I do that's been really key is I do what I call critique, assess, and bulb. So we always did the critique and assess part, but then when, we implemented bulb, I just added the word bulb to the end of that so that it became part of that process. So for our critique, we have a gallery walk, or we give feedback to other students on their artwork. And then, of course, we sit down and we assess our artwork. We use rubrics in my classroom. So the students receive 3 assessments. They receive 1 from a neighboring artist, from themselves. They get to rate themselves. And then I, of course, check their rubric as well. But the last part of that, of course, is the bulb. So as soon as we finish our assessment in class, I say, okay, now it's time to bulb. And they all know that means that they're going to, take a nice photograph of their work, because we talk about how to photograph your work properly and crop it. And then they put it into bulb. So they have class time to do it as well. And it's part of that day. We spend a class period at the end of every project doing that. Other pieces, though, we insert into our portfolios as we go. So if we finish a sketch, let's say we're working on portraiture and we're talking about facial proportions, and we work on a sketch and we're labeling the facial proportions. When that sketch is finished, we take a photo and we upload to bulb. So it's not everything at once. It's just as we go along, we're putting these things in.
Yeah.
And then, before one of those quarterly bulb checks, I always, repeatedly let them know and that it's coming, because you are always going to have students who, for whatever reason, even though they're given class time to do it, and you see that they're using their iPad, you can be walking around the room and then you will still have a student who's missing, 8 to 10 pieces of whatever it is for whatever reason. So I give them plenty of, notice that is coming as well. The other piece of that is we are a one-to-one campus. So I don't know if we mentioned that all of my students do have iPads. So that, makes my life a little bit easier.
Yeah, that they have that easy access to a device.
Right.
So those checkpoints that are 4 times a year, is that kind of your way to hold accountability throughout the year to make sure that the kids don't fall behind and they're trying to do everything at the end?
Right. And, I have seen a lot of different types of portfolios. I have seen people using just, what's the Google? There's a Google portfolio, or they're just using Google Slides. I'm not really sure.
Maybe, Google Slides.
How they're doing that. I mean, it's as basic as that, all the way to, there's other platforms out there. But for us as a district and as an art department, we decided that we were going to align all of our students' work with our objectives. So like when you go to one of my students' pages, you're going to see they have a CISD artist portfolio, but then within that portfolio, each page is an objective for the year. So there's a portraiture page, there's a perspective page, there's a 3D additive page. All 8 of our objectives are there. And so because we decided that, we created this format. There's a template for them. And which, speaking of templates, I'm really excited next year to get to use bulb templates and just pass that on to them. I think it's going to cut that setup at the beginning of the year down to less than a week.
Yeah.
Because, that just takes time, especially with new incoming 6th graders. They're just trying to figure out the iPad, period.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the reason that we decided that as a district as well, I think it's important to know, to create that template based around our objectives for the year, is that it shows that it directly correlates with our TEKs also, but it also allows us to watch their growth, from 6th grade, right now from 6th grade through 12th grade. So like my high school students who are sophomores or juniors this year, like we can go all the way back to their 6th grade year and look at their portraits. So it's really cool to watch, you know, a portrait from a 6th grader, and now here we are as an 11th grader. Like, how have we evolved? What is our growth? What are some things that we still need to work on? It's a great communication tool for, you know, a student who even moves from my school to another school in the district, just so we can see, you know, where they're at and what they've, you know, accomplished.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, I think you do something very interesting, and I know you kind of worked through this, but so each grade from 6th grade to 7th and 8th and beyond, like they're adding that contour, that portrait to that one page. So they're having year and year and year after year stuff all on one page, right?
Right.
So every time they go and visit that page, they get to see what their stuff is that they had from previous years. So they're revisiting that often, which I think is a really cool thing.
Right. They, the way that we have them do it is their 6th grade year at this point would be on the bottom. So every year we just build on top at the top of the page. So you're seeing the most recent work when you go into the portfolio, and as you scroll down, you're seeing, you know, work from the past and younger years and younger levels.
Yeah, I think that's great. So if we have any art teachers who are really interested in kind of this live database and understanding like how you use that for the students to know like what all goes in their portfolios and all that, is that something that they can reach out to you and talk to you about? And
Oh, sure. Okay. Absolutely. They can reach out to me either, I guess, through my bulb, or they can email me. That would be fine too.
Yep.
I have no problem sharing information with people. I think that it's a great tool. Another one of the things that I kind of learned this year and began to incorporate was I wanted, even though we have all of that structure with our objectives, like I just talked about, you have to create student buy-in. And that's something that over 3 years into this, I'm still working on. Because, unfortunately it's not Fortnite right now, which everybody's totally into. But this year I added a contest folder because we participate in a lot of contests. Not every student participates in every contest, but those that do and those that win those contests, they need a place to display that work.
Yeah.
And then, like I have a student who has a random folder. It just says random. And I love that because it's just stuff that she likes or, wants to collect. It's like a collection, kind of like a pin board or something. So those are some other things I just wanted to add that, even you can keep that structure and still allow them, some freedoms to have like their own spaces in there so that you get that growth, that demonstration of growth, but you also get that buy-in. But again, I'm still working on some more ideas for that as well.
Yeah. Well, I think it's great. All right. Is there any other additional tips or anything that you would tell a new teacher who maybe hasn't used Bulb yet? Like a great tip for them if you want to leave them with or anything?
Let's see. I think that you have to realize that the portfolios are evolving. Bulb evolves, and that some of those updates are really great. And so as you evolve in your classroom with using it, take little steps at first. I would recommend setting a personal bulb up first so that you can really know the ins and outs of it, because we are doers, especially in the visual art world. So that experience can help you with it. Just remember that your students, they really need guidance. They're not as self-sufficient as sometimes they pretend to be or put on that facade. They really need guidance in how to utilize it, and that it's an online presence. They need those reminders along the way, and don't get frustrated with those kids who aren't keeping up with it. You just have to remind them that's what you're there to do. You're there to coach them through it. So, and you'll be amazed. Like, there are going to be some amazing portfolios, and then there are going to be some that you're going to feel like, why isn't this kid doing this? And then you've got to figure out how to reach that kid and get that buy-in from them as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Jillian, I appreciate it. I know that our audience is going to be eating up what you have to say and maybe reaching out to you. So if you want to reach out to Jillian, you can reach her at jrichards@coppellisd.com or email help@bulbapp.com, and we'll help you get connected with Jillian and some of the resources. We'll also post her portfolio and share some of the resources that she has in there. And thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
You are so welcome. And just remember the word evolve, because I'm always working on my portfolio too. So if you see something in there and you're like, what is this? It doesn't make sense. It's probably under construction.
Yeah, it's funny because I think that's one of the powers of Bulb, is that it's a living portfolio. That's how we built it, as it to be evolving at all the times. And so we love that our users recognize that, yep, there's things that are changing and morphing, and that's what it should be about. So that's
cool. Well, thank you so much, Bria. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate Bulb.
All right. Thanks so much, Jillian. Bye.
Bye.